Hello everyone, this is Gage from Gondorian Smith, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys another Third Age Reforged online multiplayer battle replay. Now this one, as you can tell, is only going to be a 1v1 on the grassy plains, but this one is still actually a very close, very fun battle, and it was actually for a tournament on the lore server, lore Discord server, so the link to that server will of course be down in the description below. If you guys did not know, lore is actually a clan currently that plays a lot of Reforged, so if you guys want to join that, definitely go check out the link to their Discord in the description below. But like I said before, this one was a tournament that is being hosted by the lore server, or clan. However, it is of course open to, or I guess was open to pretty much anyone who wanted to come, because the tournament of course has already started. It is not accepting any more players currently, but I'm sure they will host more tournaments in the future. But this one, I'm going to be playing as the Uruk-hai of Isengard, and Isengard actually really love to play in tournaments just because they're really well balanced, and as an orc faction you can actually stand to make a few more mistakes just because they have, for the most part, more men in the unit than elven factions or even human factions. And, well, actually, however, Isengard, being more similar to human factions, isn't going to have as many men per unit as, say, like Mordor or the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, but still there is a little bit of room for mistakes in that they do have quite a few men in the unit. But anyway, my opponent is going to be Lore Dwailing, who, of course, is going to be playing as Dol Amroth, so a nice Dol Amroth versus Isengard setup here. And also, I should actually apologize for not uploading in like 2 weeks. I've tried like, I don't know how many times. I've tried like 10 times probably to upload a really awesome siege that I have. It's a 3 versus 5 siege of the rebuilt Osgiliath, 3 Gondor armies versus 5 Mordor armies. It's also on huge settings, you know, of course, so it's, for whatever reason, it gets like really choppy, kind of like midway through the battle. It gets so choppy that I can't even like, you know, like turn this camera around at all. It just like pretty much stops and like very laggily moves over. And I really have not been able to actually fix that. But don't worry, I'll be trying to get that one out as soon as possible, mostly because of the fact that it is, of course, such a big battle, and because it actually ends 98 to 100%, so I will, of course, not be spoiling who wins, but still, it was a super close, super fun battle. But anyway, we should go ahead and go into the army compositions, beginning with my own. I have got 2 units, I believe, of the Isengard Warg Riders. These guys are slightly higher in attack values than, I believe, the Angmar and Orcs of the Misty Mountains Wargs. However, they are going to be a little bit more expensive, and I also gave each of them 1 attack upgrade to make them just that much more deadly, mainly because I know going against Dol Amroth, I'm going to have to face a lot of enemy cav. I also have brought 1 unit of the Warg Skirmishers here to try to deal with any heavy cav like Swan Knights or the Haven Knights. I also have over here, you can see my 2nd unit of Warg Riders, and for my Generals unit, I actually have 1 unit of the Champions of the White Hand. These guys are super deadly anti-Knight and anti-Cav men. They actually are a Knight unit, so they did cost me 1,500 florins. However, they are very much worth it. They don't have an AP charge because they don't have Lancers, or because they don't have Lances. However, they do still have a pretty good charge of 10, so they can still do a lot of damage, and also they are fear-inspiring. So if you're able to take out the General or just take out a lot of men in the unit and then rear charge with these guys, even if there's only like 5 or 6 of them left in the unit, they can still actually manage to rout units sometimes just because of how fear-inspiring they are. For my front line, I've got 1 unit here of the Deadlanding Clansmen. These guys will only cost you about 250 florins, and you can get 2 of them before the price increase. These guys are really just a fodder unit, and also because they're a spear unit, I decided to bring them just in case any enemy cav was left out in the open. For my front line, I also have 2 units here of the famous Uruk-hai pikes. These guys are going to be very good, of course, at holding the line and dealing with, warding off enemy cav. I also have right here 1 of the Isengard Orc Ballistas. This, of course, has an insane area of effect, and because it has fire ammo, it's going to be even more damaging to the enemy. As you can see, he is kind of blobbed up here, so it will do a huge amount of damage. And also, I brought this mainly just because in 1v1s, you kind of want to force your opponent to do things. Of course, you want to make him either come to you, or if you're, depending on your like army comp, you want to make him stay away. But because, of course, I kind of have a more defensive and less mobile force, really, because of the pikes, I wanted to force him to me, especially because I have 2 units here of the Uruk-hai crossbows, and these guys, of course, do not have good range. However, the Uruk-hai crossbows are going to cost you about 800 florins, but they have 14 missile damage, and that is absolutely insane, especially when you consider that these Uruk-hai archers here, who are, of course, low-tier archers, only have, like, I believe, 5 missile damage, so 14 missile damage. That is just a huge amount of stopping power, but that is, of course, how crossbows generally work. They have really good stopping power. They're AP missiles. They ignore shield bonuses. However, they, of course, take quite some time to fire, and they have very limited range, so you're not going to be generally winning any skirmish fights with these guys. However, if you want to deal a lot of damage to your opponent, and of course, if you force your opponent to come to you, they can do huge amounts of damage. It'll also, these guys will really help out at taking out any of the enemy heavy cavalry if I do force it to come closer to my own lines. I also have 2 units on either side of the Uruk-hai Reavers. These guys are pretty much just cheap AP units, should do quite well against most of the Dol Amroth roster. In my center here, I've got 3 units of the standard Uruk-hai infantry that are unupgraded. However, these guys do still have... Oh, excuse me, that was weird. These guys do still have 9 attack, 22 defense, 9 armor, 7 shield value without being upgraded whatsoever. So they are very, very cost-effective sword and shield infantry, and they can actually tend to be a lot of other sword and shield infantrymen, even for human factions. And it's also really nice because they actually do have 173 men in units. So these guys are very, very cost-effective. You can bring 4 of them before the price increase, but I only had enough for 3. And they also are, I think they cost about 750 florins, so they are going to cost a little bit more than your usual sword and shield unit, but they are definitely very cost effective. And for my final infantry unit back here, you can see I've got 1 unit of the fully upgraded Uruk-hai Berserkers. These guys look absolutely awesome, and they are very, very deadly. They have locked morale, so they're not going to be routing. They can also chant, so they can inspire fear into their enemies and inspire courage to their friendlies. They also have 2 hit points, but of course, unupgraded, they have like 1 or maybe even 0 armor. But with the 2 armor upgrades, they actually do have a pretty decent amount of armor, but still you want to keep the arrows away from these guys for as long as possible, and really just you want to get these guys stuck in melee as quickly as possible, just because of their AP and just overall really good stats. They can really just tend to tear through their enemies. That'll pretty much do it for my army comps. We can go over here now to Dwailing. Lord Dwailing is what his clan is. So over here he has got 1 unit of the Haven Knights for his general, a very good anti-cav knight unit, but because they aren't actually dual wielding like the champions of the White Hand over there, I think that they might actually lose against the champions of the White Hand in a 1v1, but I actually don't know that for a fact, so I'll have to look at that later. He also has 1 unit of Mercenary Cav on either side. On the other side, he also has a unit of the Swan Knights, another very deadly, very heavy anti-cav unit, and these guys are actually dual wielding, so they have a ton of damage, especially to enemy cavalry units. On either flank of his infantry corps, he's got 1 unit of the Black Swan Vanguard. These guys are low skill but AP mace and shield infantry units, so they should do real nice against most of my infantry, especially units like the Uruk-hai infantry. He's also got 2 units of the Belfast Marines, who should do very good against pretty much anything I have to offer, especially units like pikes and Uruk-hai Berserkers. For his main line, he's got 3 units of Dor and Urnal Swordsmen, backing up 3 units of the Edhelm Halberdiers. Now, we were actually speaking after this battle. He was deciding between actually bringing the Edhelm Halberdiers or the Dor and Urnal pikes. But he decided actually on bringing the Edhelm Halberdiers because of their AP, and generally I think that would be a pretty good pick. However, because I'm playing Isengard, his halberdiers actually will not have the range to get into my pikes. So if he does attack my pikes with his halberds, he will find it very difficult to deal with my own pikemen. Because also I should mention that all the halberds have been given their phalanx formation back. However, they have had their reach shortened, which of course makes a lot more sense because before halberds were kind of just like AP pikes. So pikes were pretty much not super useful, at least especially not against halberds. But now that the halberds range has been shortened, so it's a lot more, well, it makes a lot more sense now. Pikes still do actually have a place. But anyway, so he's got 3 units of them. Of course, AP halberds should do really well against units like the Uruk-hai infantry and Reavers, because he will be able to outrange them. He's got 2 units, I believe, of the low-tier Dor and Urnal archers here. He got stakes deployed back there, so he does not take any rear charges. And he also has, I believe, 1 hidden unit of the Blackroot Vale archers, who are, of course, rangers. But besides that, I think he's only got 2 units here of the Dor and Urnal cavalry. These guys are very low-tier lancers, but as long as they're used in a support role, they can actually do very well for themselves. And because they are, of course, lancers, they actually do have an AP charge. But you do have to be very careful of making sure these guys do not get surrounded, or you have to make sure that they pick their fights well, because of the fact that they are low tier, they actually will rout pretty easily. However, they do still have 90 men in the unit, so they can do pretty well for themselves, honestly, if they are used correctly. But anyway, I'll go ahead and start this battle off, and as you can see, I'm already going to be firing my Isengard Ballista, and Dwailing is, of course, not going to sit here and take this, so we'll have to see how he decides to counter my Ballista. But I will definitely slow this down just a bit, because this video, I have a few replays, but because I don't really have much time for super long ones quite yet, I decided just to do this 1v1 of the tourney because it was close, and because I just wanted to get something out. But yeah, you can see Dwailing noticing my Ballista, so he's going to try to rush forward right away. You can see his Blackroot Vale archers coming out of hiding now. But honestly, it might be a good idea of him kind of just to post up here kind of in front of me and just let his javelins do the work on units like pikes and stuff. However, actually, I don't know about that because my crossbows would really be able to tear through his halberds. Ooh, yeah, there you go. You can see Those Dor and Ernal swordsmen and Edhelm halberdiers taking a beating from my ballista. It was actually taking out a few of those Belfast Marines as well. These guys are going to be very deadly against most of my army. I've also got my Uruk-hai archers targeting these Edhelm halberdiers, just trying to target the unshielded units. My crossbows will also begin firing at them pretty shortly. Also, if you would like to... Oh, missing there. But also, if you notice... Well, we'll see it later. Ooh, take out more of those halberdiers. But the Uruk-hai archers have been given a really nice looking unit model. But oh, look at the tear that this ballista has been causing. Definitely well worth the 800 florins, mainly because of the fact that it's forcing him to me, which is what I want. But also because of the fact that it's actually causing a lot of damage, mainly because he's not in loose formation. But yeah, over here you can see my crossbows beginning to load up here, so that I feel like this unit of Edhelm halberdiers, yes, look at that. The 14 damage really showing itself there. Also, something to note about the Dor and Ernal swordsmen, they're actually a much better low tier or militia tier sword and shield infantry unit than most others, mainly because of the fact that they actually have 6 attack, which is actually insane, honestly, for militia tier units. But still, that is going to be because of the fact they are a little bit more expensive than others. But yeah, I can see the Uruk-hai archers here with their really nice looking leather, or I guess lamellar armor there. I'm going to try to pull them back here because I do not want them to get into a fight quite yet. And over there you can see the cavalry moving on the flanks. But yeah, okay, so he's got his Belfast Marines posted up here, but ooh, look at this unit of Edhelm halberdiers down to 113, 115, and 153. So that's the only unit that has not taken any losses, but these two have taken about, well, this one's taking like 50, this one's taken like 40 losses, so already things are looking in my favor. And over here you got Dor and Ernal swordsmen trying to chase down my archers, but running themselves into pikes, so they will lose that fight. Trying to pull back my Uruk-hai archers as well as my ballista. Luckily, it's my ballista that's taking a lot of skirmish fire right now, not my crossbows, because my crossbows are, of course, constantly firing this whole time. But oh, here we've got his Belfast Marines, and they will probably be targeting my pikes. Over there, I've got some Uruk-hai Reavers. I was going to try to go after the archers or the Marines here, but unfortunately, they are going to get stuck out and charge into some Edhelm halberdiers. But honestly, that's fine, because these halberdiers are at only 75 men, so they will take a lot of losses. Here in the center, you can see the militia tier of the militia tier really showing itself here by those swordsmen already thinking about routing. I charged forward my infantry here as well because I was going to try to just rout them immediately. And unfortunately, I'm actually being forced to target these Belfast Marines with my crossbows, which is going to cause me to not really fire so much at these Edhelm halberdiers, but you can see they are definitely taking losses. Over here we've got some Black Swan Vanguard now going to go into my Reavers, who are not going to like that at all, and yes, are going to in fact rout. So that was definitely a mistake on my part. And over here, unfortunately, I think it's going to be another mistake, because the War Riders are definitely strong. They will be able to take out a lot of these mercenary cavalrymen. But against these Swan Knights, they will definitely struggle. However, I'm actually kind of fine at this, because it is providing the perfect target for my Warg Skirmishers to fire straight to these heavy Swan Knights. And at the same time, I'm going to be able to use my Uruk-hai crossbows to fire to those Swan Knights, so they will take losses very quickly. Here in the center, we've got some Black Swan Vanguard going into my infantry now that I decided to commit. I'm also going to go ahead and commit my Berserkers, because the Black Swan Vanguard will definitely be able to do a huge amount of damage to my Uruk-hai infantry. My Pike Line's still holding on, but really the only reason why they're holding on is because of their better reach than the Halberds and the Swordsmen. Because you can here in the center, you can see my Pikes are starting to thin out pretty quickly, unfortunately for me. But yeah, you can see that unit of Belfast Marines just getting absolutely butchered by my crossbows. A little bit of routing going on here as well. Here come my Berserkers, because I want to try to deal with these Black Sun Vanguard as quickly as possible, as well as all the other units here. And my Uruk-hai Berserkers will be able to do an insane amount of damage. But yeah, right here you can see, unfortunately, my Warg Rider is just totally butchered. Mercenary Cav down to 53, and the Swan Knights are still at 34. They're taking a lot of crossbow volleys now. And over here we've got Dor and Ernal Cavalry running down my Warg Skirmishers, so my own cavalry really not doing too well at the moment. And over here we've got some Black Swan Vanguard outflanking my Dunlending Clansmen, so I'm going to move forward a unit of Uruk-hai Infantry. But here in the center you can see Dwelling's line really starting to fall apart. He's got a lot of routing there, so my Pikes will be freed to go into the Javelins now. But here in the center you can see the Cavalry going straight to my crossbows. But while the Swan Knights will be able to do a lot of damage, you can see they've taken a huge amount of losses to my crossbows. And because both they and the Mercenary Cav are actually melee Cav, they won't be able to do a ton of damage off the charge. It's really just going to get them stuck in and provide a good firing line for my crossbows and archers. Over here you can see the Mercenary Cav and Haven Knights coming in, but I've got my Champions of the White Hand and War Riders here as well. And since the center has been broken through, I'm going to go ahead and charge forward here. I want to really take the initiative and try to silence the archers and the Belfast Marines. The one unit has been pretty much taken out. Some Dor and Ernal swordsmen coming back from routing, but here in the center you've got Pikes and infantry fighting hard against some Black Swan Vanguard. That'll be a pretty close fight. Here in the center, my pikes doing very well for themselves, and here with the berserkers and infantry, they're doing a pretty decent job of taking out the Blackstone Vanguard and halberds, but it still is a difficult task. And over here, I'm actually completely fine with this. He's going to go ahead and charge into my Uruk-hai Reavers, but they actually do have a bonus against cavalry. Not that they're going to do a huge amount of damage, but mainly I'm just happy that he's not charging units like my crossbows or my infantry line. And even still, he's going to try to go ahead and charge into my archers and my ballista, I believe, which again I'm completely fine with, because his lancers would be able to absolutely decimate my back line right here, where things are looking much, much more even. And he could even go all the way back here and try to take out my clansmen, who are already wavering. But I do have over here my infantry really beating back on those Black Swan Vanguard. And over here we've got Warg Riders, beat back the last of those Mercenary Cav. And over here we've got Haven Knights versus Champions of the White Hand. And currently I can see the Champions of the White Hand losing very heavily. But with some support from the Warg Riders now, they will be able to probably pull things back in their favor. But I should go back over here, because you can see things not going too well for me in the back lines. You can see my Uruk-hai archers and reavers getting charged by some Dor and Urnal cavalry. But I do have my Warg skirmishers here firing into the back of them, because now that these Swan Knights have mostly been taken out, they're not going to be causing too much trouble. But you can see they did actually get a really nice charge here in the center. You can see I've got really no men right here in the center. But again, I still have my berserkers who are at 71, and they're really doing a good job at tearing through those Black Swan Vanguard. Not so much the halberds because of the range, but them paired with the Uruk-hai infantry might be able to hold on long enough for these pikes to be able to turn around. You can see they're actually thinking about routing there. And again, he's going into my crossbows, which I am perfectly fine with, because it means he's not going to be recharging my infantry line, which is looking not too great. But over here, I have to be careful of losing my general, because I've got my 8 Champions of White Hand fighting against the Haven Knights. My Warg Riders over here as well, but they're about to be completely surrounded by a lot of the Dol Amroth cavalry. Luckily, a lot of it's lancers, but still I need to be careful about my general. He's 1 of 7 left. Haven Knights down to 11. And he's still got his archers constantly firing, but because I'm not blobbing up too much, it's not going to cause a huge amount of damage. I've got my Uruk-hai infantry here fighting against some Belfast Marines and some Dor and Urnal swordsmen. And some archers, but my infantry should be able to win that fight, honestly, just because of how good they are. Over here, my berserkers at 68, but they're actually managing to beat back the Dol Amroth men right here. The Dol Amroth men just really didn't have enough quite yet, but it is still going to be a rather close fight. My pikes really did a good job at holding the line there. And again, my Warg skirmishers just constantly firing at the Swan Knights and the Haven Knights, as well as just any cavalry really in general. But again, I'm perfectly fine with him charging into my Uruk-hai crossbows and stuff, because my crossbows have done an insane amount of damage to most of Dwelling's infantry, as well as the Swan Knights back there and some of the Haven Knights. So I'm perfectly okay with him going after my archers, as long as he does not go after my infantry line, where things are looking still very close. You can see the percentage is within 4%, was just within 3%. He's got 12 Swan Knights, 7 Mercenary Cav, 13 Mercenary Cav, only 5 Haven Knights. And yes, if you can see back here, my fear-inspiring Champions of the White Hand were able to rout those Black Swan Vanguard. So this is going to free up a huge portion of my infantry. But you can see Dwayne going to try to stop this. However, he's unfortunately going to charge into my pikes. And I was able to see this, so I was able to turn that around pretty much just in time to try to face down these cavalrymen. And because these are Uruk-hai pikemen, they're going to not take pretty much any damage from those lancers and do a huge amount of damage in return. But yeah, they only took like 9 losses. My Warg skirmishers still running around, just trying to keep the enemy cav busy. You can see the Dor and Urnal cavalry trying to sneak around here as my infantry and champions go into these Blackroot Vale archers and want to try to silence those BP missile units. Ooh, yeah, it's going to be a pretty deadly charge, honestly. Even low-tier lancers can still do a really good amount of damage. I'm going to pull my champions out of there just because I don't want them to, or I don't want to lose my general. Because if I do, things will turn very sour very quickly. Haven Knights down to 3, and where are these Swan Knights, honestly? I think the Swan Knights might be dead. They might have tried to rear charge back here and just fallen, because the Berserkers have a really good anti-cav bonus, especially because of their 2 hit points. They can actually counter-charge cavalry in a lot of cases. Pikes at 60, most of these Black Swan Vanguards dead, the Edhelm Halberdiers are routing, same with the Archers, and that's going to pretty much rout the whole of Dwelling's forces right there in the center. But, ooh, just a bloody, bloody fight. So far. And you can see, yeah, things just kind of starting to get cleaned up now. Unfortunately, it seems like Dwelling really wasn't able to focus his lancers on my infantry line where most of my deadly forces were, rather than focusing on my low-tier archers. My crossbows, of course, are always going to be a somewhat good target, but I was fine with him going after my crossbows because it means he wasn't going to be rear charging into my infantry line where things were looking very close. But he is going to go ahead and admit defeat. His general was actually the last man in his Haven Knight unit, which was actually kind of sad. Oh, he just got taken out. Because I was going to try to kill his general because he had such low tier units that he would have probably had a lot of routing. But anyway, that was of course going to be this is of course going to be the end of the battle. You can see both of us had very even kills. It was a very, very close battle. That's not how many men I actually had remaining. I believe that's actually with the healed casualties. But anyway, definitely a very good job to Dwayling. It was a very fun, very close battle, and I can't wait to go into the next round of the tournament. If you guys would like to keep seeing tournament battles, just go ahead and leave me a comment saying if you do or don't in the section below. But anyway, Champions of White Hand only getting 58 kills, but again, I'm fine with that because most of it was pretty heavy cavalry. Warg Riders doing alright, again, considering the fact that they were only fighting cavalry. That's actually pretty well. That's pretty good. My Uruk-hai crossbows getting almost identical kills, doing very well for themselves. The Ballista only getting 71 kills. However, I still think it was very worth it, just because of the fact that it really, really forced Dwayling to come towards me. And just by looking at his formation, he did not really want to do that, it seemed like, at all. However, my Pikes also did very well for themselves. My Reavers not too good, but again, they were just kind of there. Orc Skirmishers did well, considering they were fighting cavalry the whole time. My Infantry did kind of spotty. One unit only got 92 kills, the other got only 35. However, this one unit right here got 259 kills. My Uruk-hai Berserkers also got 186 kills, so that's definitely good. And my Archers and Clansmen didn't do bad either, but that'll pretty much be the end of this video, I think. And definitely be on the lookout for that 3v5 Gondor versus Mordor Siege of Rebuilt Osgiliath. It was a really fun battle. So I'll try to get that up as soon as possible. I really need to try to fix that weird camera or lag choppiness issue that I've been having recently. I mean, there wasn't any issue here, I think mainly because of the fact that it was only a 1v1 with like no buildings and pretty much nothing, just because it was grassy plains, you know, for the tournament. But still, I will try to get that out as soon as possible. But again, big thank you to Dwayling for playing this battle with me, and that'll pretty much be the end of this video. So farewell wherever you fare, till your eyes receive you at your journey's end.